This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
You're saying the wind has created a unexpected encounter in the Gulf Stream?
Lovely segue. You guys can't see it in the recording, but I'm making the most disgusted face palm right now.
So today we're doing just one chapter, Unexpected Encounters. The symbol is the Darkfriend face. And I gotta say, I've got some high praise for this chapter. I know you're probably not what you're expecting to hear from me after the previous 11 chapters. This is the first chapter to me, except the prologue, where I go, okay, shit's happening. We are in it. The writing is good. The characters are good. There's stuff happening in the background. Sanderson does tend to over-explain in a few places, and I would cut those lines in order to make it feel a little more mysterious and a little more discoverable. But I really do love this chapter. To me feels very Wheel of Time and very well done.
I think I completely agree. And I think part of the reason why that's so sad, why that's happening in this chapter, is because this is a plot that has been very, very confusing and in the background of all the other books. And so to have Egwene and Sanderson working together to just bring it all together, lay it out on the page in one coherent chapter is very relieving. We have been building to putting all these pieces together and having all the cards on the table for a long time. And Sanderson's very good at bringing things together, and Egwene is very good at bringing things together. So it's just hitting on all notes.
When you get the sleeping bag into the bag after all that stuffing and you just pull it tight, this is that pulling tight moment where just you cinch down on it and you're just like, gotcha. And you're like, now the storyline is compact in this nice little tight bag and we have all these plot lines. She gets to meet you have the rebels coming together with the Dark Awjaw Hunters, coming together with her capture and sort of this goal of saving the tower. And she's making progress on convincing, instead of just the same punishments over and over and over again, she actually convinces some people to change their mind, which is, oh my God. What?
Yeah.
It's progress. Yeah. It's progress. And that's where we're really seeing something happen. And that's where it feels like I love this chapter because we are moving. We are moving through these plot lines to the point where when Egwene does finally take over at the end of this book, I believe it.
Because of this and other similar scenes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's nom 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 nom. Yeah. It's so good.
Well, so I think it's your reading.
Oh, yes it is. Because it's an Egwene chapter. Egwene walked the cavernous halls of the White Tower, lost in thought. Her two red keepers trailed along behind. They seemed a little sullen these days. Elida ordered them to stay with Egwene more and more often. Though the individuals changed, there were almost always two with her. And yet, it seemed they could sense that Egwene considered them to be attendants, rather than guards. It had been well over a month since Swan had conveyed her disturbing news in Tel Riyadh, but still Egwene thought about it. The events were a reminder that the world was coming apart. This was a time when the White Tower should have been a source of stability. Instead, it divided against itself while Rand al'Thor's men bonded sisters. How could Rand have allowed such a thing? There was obviously little left of the youth with whom she'd grown up. Of course, there was little of the youthful Egwene left either. Gone were the days when the two of them had seemed destined to end up married, living on a little farm in the Two Rivers. And I would keep reading, except that the next paragraph references Gawain, and I will not be doing that.
You're just like, no Gawain content. Just
we're not doing that. I have to have boundaries. This is me asserting my boundaries for self-care.
Which is good because there's a lot of Gawain coming, and you're gonna have to set that boundary high because it's a disturbingly large amount of the content of the next three books.
Memory hole.
Why? You didn't have to spend
5 chapters later.
Yeah, I know, right? So we've got a time lapse of a month, right? I feel like that's pretty important to point out. Like, she has had a month to worm her way into the tower, have these meetings, talk to a lot of different Aes Sedai, because there's not that many left, right? Like,
Well, it's been more than a month since she's been captured, right? Because this is a timestamp since Swan brought her news about Halima and Delana, and that was like a week or two into her captivity.
Sure. Yeah. So we're looking like 6 weeks into this, which I feel like catches her up a little bit in the time stream. I feel like she's been behind in the timeline. And again, I'm mostly going on feels for these 3 books because there's no really good official timeline I could find because Sanderson didn't really, I think, keep to one. But to me, this feels like she's catching up with some of the other characters, right? Like, a month is passing for her, but I don't necessarily think it's passing for all the other characters we've talked to.
Right. Like, in the meantime, while all these other things we've been paying attention to happened, in the meantime, Egwene has been having this go on. Because this is all very internal to the tower. There's no news, there's no rumors of her blow-by-blows that could get out to the others. So, totally different track. So, yeah, I think that you're totally right.
I think they get some rumors that the Amyrlin may have been captured or something like that. I think that gets out, right?
Like, but like that's right up there with like the tower has split, right? Like, it's not really relevant to her allies per se. But yeah, she's doing her clean the patch of floor in front of you and save the White Tower so that you can save the world, which is a winning strategy, turns out. And she's just doing that, and she points out that things have been continuing to change in the tower, right? Like, corridors are swapping constantly, like it's just becoming normal.
And a transgender person is just another sign of the end of the world.
All right, well, okay.
That's surprisingly appropriate for what happened today.
Fucking hell.
I mean, it really is. She's like, the only possible way someone who presents as a woman could channel Saidin
is if the literal devil is ripping the world apart at the seams. Thank you for the latent transphobia, Robert Jordan. You tried. You consciously tried, and you subconsciously failed.
Oh, no, but she's like, this is just another sign.
Yeah, I feel though in her defense,
she sounds like someone holding the end of the world. Transgender people are a sign of the apocalypse. Like, really? Oh, I know that's not what she's doing. I know this is a Forsaken. I know this is something the Dark One did and corrupted. I understand what he's saying, but oh my god. Oh, it's my God.
In 2025, this is just hitting differently.
A little differently.
Just a skosh.
We're laughing because, today was Trump's inauguration, and we're just...
Yesterday was Trump's inauguration. Okay. Today was his first day in office.
Right.
First full day in office. And the fuckery is coming hard and fast. So, yes, laughter, because burning things down is frowned upon. Yeah, we're not thinking about the damage he's doing, so I'm sorry. We're escaping. Cleaning the patch of floor, one section of the floor at a time. Clean what you could reach and then move on.
Oh, the greater pain. I'm not feeling the physical discomfort because right now there is a greater pain of some evil splitting my country. Sorry, White Tower.
Yeah, splitting us against ourselves when we should be facing the existential crisis that is threatening the literal survival of our species on the planet. We should be united and leading the charge against the devil, climate change. But no, we're divided against ourselves. Deep breaths. The pain is great.
Today kind of feels like they went back, rescued Elida from the Shanchan, and put her back in charge of the tower.
Literally. Like, what if Elida came back and they were like, you know what, you did great last time. You should just do it again. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, back to just book content. Egwene is thinking, like, obviously this was her revelation, right? That she can laugh through the pain because the pain of the tower being split is greater than the physical pain. The emotional pain is so bad that what happens to your body doesn't matter. And I feel like, on some level that's ridiculous, right? Because pain hurts. But on another level, like, we see people do things that they shouldn't be able to do because pain should stop them, because they convince them, everything from lifting the car off a child to climbing a mountain to getting out of escapes. Like, your brain can ignore pain wounds for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
Just to people functioning through chronic pain, women functioning through chronic pain all the fucking time, right? Like,
right. Or like I've talked about getting tattooed before. Like that's a great example of like just being like, yeah, hurt me. And I will sit here and just be calm about it, even as you are like etching into my flesh. And also like people who stand up to torture.
Yeah.
Right. There are some people who go down to figs and mice and they crumble immediately. And there's other people who don't give up their co-conspirators up to the point of death. And they die never having given up the names of their co-conspirators. Like, people can do some wild shit in the face of torture.
The evidence shows that most people will just tell you what you want to hear when you're being tortured, which is why it's not a good source of information.
I'm literally talking about people who have gone to the firing squad, never having given up the name of their co-conspirators throughout history. Like, this is a thing that has happened. They were tortured. They did not give up the names.
Right.
Like, that's a documented thing that happens. And then, you know, most people don't. But it's like, clearly, there are many, many instances in which your mind overpowers what your body is experiencing. And you're like, no, I simply judge that insufficient to change my behavior.
I mean,
like,
the placebo effect.
It hurts, but fuck it, you know? Well, not even the placebo effect. Just like, it is possible to decide that the physical pain does not need to change your behavior.
Right. I'm a figs and mice person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But like, I mean, like you said, mountain climbers, like, going to Everest involves being absolutely miserable for several months straight. Like, literally every second of every day, your body is dying and it sucks. And that starts like on your way into base camp. And it takes months to actually get up to the summit or to the summit attempt. And yet people pay all the money to do it. And it is physically demanding and horrible and miserable, like, the whole time. Like, the actual experience of being there is miserable.
The quote, every corpse on Mount Everest was once a highly motivated person.
So motivated. And very wealthy, too. Well, not every corpse. Obviously, Sherpas die, too. But, yeah, all the ones in fancy neon climbing gear, very wealthy, in addition to being very motivated.
We are just morbid today, aren't we?
Dude, I have been watching videos of the 2011 Tohoku tsunami, like, a bunch lately.
Why?
My mom has a thing about watching plane crashes. I like to think I'm being very reasonable by just watching tsunami damage. But that and the Boxing Day tsunami.
Do you know how many more tsunamis kill so many more people?
Yeah, but they're just so...
Is it your excuse geology? Is that what you're like, it's an earthquake thing?
Yep. Well, and also I'm fascinated by the physics of water. I always have been since I was a little kid. It's definitely like an autistic stim for me to just watch water flowing over things. Mm-hmm. So watching a tsunami like decimate a coastal town, just come up into the harbor and destroy everything and then drag it all back out, like, it just... But yeah, the more stressed I get, the more I'm like, I want to watch tsunami videos. And I'm like, I never understood my mom being like, I'm really depressed, so I'm going to watch plane crash videos. And suddenly, as of like about a month ago, I suddenly get it, because I am just like, yes, an hour of just watching shaky handheld footage of tsunamis coming in is what is doing it for me. What the fuck? So yeah, fucking morbid.
So my non-educated theory is that, like, your brain is saying, oh my God, there's a disaster. And you're saying, well, at least it's not a tsunami. You're like recalibrating your brain to be like, oh, it could be a tsunami. Calm down. It's not that bad. And that, like, that calms your nervous system down a little bit to be like, oh, okay, this isn't the disaster that's actually going on. Yeah,
that could be part of it, is it's controllable. I'm not ruminating on what could happen to me. I am focusing on what did happen to someone else. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And yeah, like, I recently learned about new things about the Boxing Day tsunami. Like, I didn't really know many of the, like, specific regional things that happened in that tsunami. I just knew a lot of people died and well, I knew the thing about the Thai resort towns getting smashed, because that's where all the rich foreigners were. But, like, I had never heard of the town of Accra or the train disaster that happened. But it's, like, the worst train disaster in all of, like, rail history, because it got stuck on the tracks when a tsunami came in Boxing Day. And it's pretty... Trains generally are a force of nature, but not in the face of a tsunami.
No, tsunamis are crazy.
And they have, like, one of the rail cars is, like, in a museum in this town, and there's just like the reporters are just going there and being like, here it is, here's one of the 6 train cars, and it's all twisted, and like, it's just yeah. So I've been learning new stuff about that, because it was a very, very devastating tsunami. This is so off topic.
Guys, I wish I could say that American politics didn't affect us on a very deep level, but we're both very political creatures, outside this podcast, and it's hard not to feel a little overwhelmed by what's going on in the country today. And by the way, I have all the other stuff going on, which if you want to hear about, it's at the end.
I mean, existence is political.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You can not do
problem.
politics all you want, but to paraphrase someone whose name I'm forgetting, politics is going to do you. So, existing is a political act, and we are attempting to pay attention, which supposedly makes us political. It's not. Can we please stop talking about the real world?
Yes, please. You're going to cut all this, right? You're going to cut all of that.
Yes, I'm cutting it. I'm
Please.
burning it all with fire.
Thank you. Good God. Sorry, live people. You're our therapy. I apologize. We should pay you for this.
Seriously? Just going to waive Patreon for a month.
So we have two encounters that really kind of matter. There's a couple of more, right, that show that she's like making progress, but the two that matter they bring up right here, right? Midani and Bellaine. Benai. Thank you. Jeez. My brain sometimes sees a name and substitutes a name that I know without reading the full name. It's one of the things, because like I read, I realize this. Someone said this on TikTok, right? So I'm watching TikTok. The whole other fucking thing. And he's like, I read novels like blah, 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 went to da, 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 and saw ma, 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 and I'm not necessarily reading the whole name until it matters.
Okay, personally attacked, first of all.
And so sometimes there's so many names that are similar in Jordan that ma, ma, ma and ma, ma, ma are just swap because I don't read the names closely enough.
And this is why I love audiobooks, because someone got paid to do a better job than my brain will do automatically. And I will have the very clear enunciation of Benai Nalsad just in my head. And like, I can't fall prey to that exact speed reading pitfall that my brain does.
And yeah, and it's Spidonkle is saying it's a speed reading tactic, and I believe it. It's just something I've developed, something I've always done as a kid, but I've always read very quickly.
I think it's a dyslexia tactic.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that, because Jesus.
Because it's like, so the name that starts with X. All right,
Yeah.
cool. The name that starts with P. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, no, there's two names that start with P. Okay, there's a PA and a PE.
Oh, there's a P that wears a dress, and there's the P that's a stable hand. All right, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's how I read names, and that's why when people argue over pronunciations about names, I'm like, I didn't even pronounce it in my head. I never did. People are like, did you say Nynaeve or Nynaeve? I said the N one, the NY one. They got an N in it and then a Y. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Ninyanyanova.
Don't know.
Yeah, it's like the thing where I saw a TikTok a couple weeks ago that was like a song where they played, it was just one verse worth of time, but they played all the verses and the chorus at the same time. And it was Daft Punk. So it was all, extremely precise and everything was time synced. And it was like, doesn't this sound cool? And all the comments are like, that's just how music sounds in my head. Like, I'm like, yeah, I hear the whole song at once too. And names are like that. Like, I just hear all of the syllables in the name at once. And then you try to ask me to physically make it a linear order. And I'm like, I don't know the order they go. And I just know that they all exist in a word picture that has 4 dimensions in my head. Like, I'm sorry, I can't speak it.
But, I really enjoy reading out loud, and that forces me to actually look at the letters in a way that I don't when I'm reading silently.
Yeah. Yeah, no, audiobooking, either as a narrator or a listener, is a really good way to realize what you've been missing.
Right. And now you understand why names that start with S are such a problem for us.
Yeah.
Because there are too many.
But yeah, the point here is that Midani has finally come through on summoning Egwene to talk about everything, and Benai Nalsad has finally summoned Egwene to talk about the seed that Egwene planted last time she visited her. So it's 2 different instances of a second meeting with a woman that she has been trying to meet with, they both happen to call for her on the same day, even though they have nothing to do with each other.
Since Knife of Dreams, right? So these are both follow-up meetings that happened in Knife of Dreams, which I think is like a nice little cap end that Brandon's writing.
Mm-hmm.
This one is where she starts off by performing a bunch of the weaves that she performs, all the time to prove that she's like, the same one she did last time. And she's like, what's going on? Which is actually interesting because I was thinking about it. Egwene gets so much practice channeling with forkroot in her. I thought that was an interesting foreshadowing for when the Shan attack, right? All this practice is like, oh, well, it makes sense. Because like up to this point, forkroot to me has been like you either can't channel at all, or like once you can channel all your power, right? This like weak level of brew seems to follow slightly different rules. And I feel like Sanderson's kind of presenting them here to be like, and I know Jordan did it where she was able to do those balls and stuff like that. But like the fact that she's able to create an entire weave worth of an entire gateway worth of weaves, just not powerful enough, seems a little different to me.
Yeah, but I wonder if it does really increase her dexterity and her ability and her capacity within that constraint. Like they're just powering her up.
Right, that I'm wondering if she's building up to that, right? They're like over the last month, she's been forced to do a lot with a little, and that does mean that when she gets her full power back, oh my God, she's leveled up again in terms of like what she can do with the power available to her.
Right. But yeah, she basically does the same meeting she did with Bene before. Bene just kind of tries to pretend that she can just like repeat and then just really casually like pick up the thread.
It's like,
and Egwene's like, that was the least casual thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. So what if you started a podcast with Patreons and suddenly you had, it's like that level of like, what are you talking about? We're sitting in that situation right now. It's a terrible hypothetical. You're clearly getting, so she was punished, right? So she went up, asked about the secret library, was punished for it, basically, because and she's like, I don't understand why I'm being punished for just asking about this thing. And which is, okay, really? First of all, and second of all, and so Egwene comes back and basically says, you're punished because they're wondering how you found out, right? You didn't tell them, so they're trying to find the source of the leak, so they want to keep you out of the way, so you're not going to warn the person who told you. But realistically, if you just tell them it was me, that will solve the problem, right? Because they'll know that I got the information from the rebels, not from inside your organization. And then, to deal with me, all you have to do is make me one of the keepers of the information. And then I'm on the in group. Just put me on the in group, right?
Which is like catnip for a Brown.
Right.
Hey, you know how you got in trouble because you were curious? Well, the solution to that could involve you getting the answers to
Right.
those questions and even more. And Bene is like, please lead me around by the nose. I am completely smitten because that is how Browns are.
I will say, like, it I don't know if it's just doesn't feel that clever, right? But it feels like Bene should have been able to like figure that one out to me.
This whole sequence of meetings that takes place in this chapter gives me that level of like primary color Casio keyboard. Like I thought these women were centuries old.
Right.
And yet they keep having these very unsubtle asks of a child. I mean, she is 20. Mm-hmm. 20, and you're telling me that your 200-year-old ass, you're telling me that your 200-year-old ass couldn't think of these common sense things? And it's like, I feel like it's Sanderson being like, look, she's able to work with every Aja on their own terms, speak to them where they are, and that's great. I just wish that he didn't need to diminish the Aes Sedai's like intelligence so dramatically to do it.
Yeah, agreed. There's a lack of cleverness in the writing there.
It is, and we are told to think of it as clever. That's what annoys me.
Yes. I think that's what throws me. Yeah.
Yeah, these are clever women who do clever things, and they're praising Egwene for being clever, and I'm not seeing clever.
Right.
I'm seeing common sense and basic human empathy, which I get for Aes Sedai is a radical concept, but it's not clever.
Right, and so maybe that's what it is. It's like, oh my God, human empathy. Wow, we never thought of that, right? Like Aes Sedai really, yeah, that fits.
The ivory tower does lack in human empathy. That is a very real problem.
And also think about the subset of Aes Sedai we're talking about. We're talking about the ones with the least empathy, the ones with the most stubborn, we're going to do tradition the way it was. She got raised. That's the law. This is what we're going to do. Aes Sedai.
Yeah, she's not working with the radical progressive Aes Sedai. She's working with the extremely hidebound conservative Aes Sedai.
So maybe she's just going in going, have you tried empathy? And they're going, no, that's brilliant. What
the kids
great...
are all right. Gen Z will save us. No, I think that's actually probably maybe what Sanderson was going for, because that is, you want it to be truly clever, but it is true that we've been complaining since book 1 about how the Aes Sedai are cold and aloof and should be more in the world and existing. And Egwene is a teenager from a rural village who was raised near the top of that power structure, and it's just kind of like, well, have you tried doing like really basic common sense on the ground things? And they're like, we haven't been there in like 2,000 years. Like that was the last time we touched grass. So,
and I do feel like they're all tied up in their own tradition. They're all, fucked up with Elida and her weird rules and the promotions and the demotions, and Spadoinkle is making a good point that Perrin kind of had the same plot line when he went to Two Rivers, which was like, hey, stop trying to defend yourselves and gather together, or else you're going to get overwhelmed. And everyone's like, yeah, no shit.
Stop waiting for the others to defend you. Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about that is that's more, Perrin was the spark that, you need someone to start a movement. No one wants to be the first person to abandon their farm. Right. And so that very much had bystander effect to me. And Perrin was just overcoming bystander effect by saying, come on, let's go. Like this is bad. You need to follow me. Right. And he was the first one in, and everybody else was kind of following him.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that is kind of what Egwene's doing, too. She's going to all the bystanders one by one and saying, you need to be the first.
Right.
Knowing that if she says that to 6 different people and one of them even starts to twitch that direction, the other 5 will all race to beat them to it. And Perrin and Egwene are very similar in so many ways, so that fits.
They are. I mean, that's true. They were paired together after the Shedar Logoth, right?
Yeah, they have very similar personalities. Also, they were the only 2 raised in town, right? They're the townies of the friend group.
Right. They both went to he went home to make it a big city, and she went to the big city.
Right, exactly. But they both met in town, and they existed in that space, and they're really good friends. So I could totally see them having the same kind of common sense, why are you waiting to take care of yourselves approach, and having that be, yeah, for them to be similar in that way makes sense. And Perrin did it at home, so it was a different context. Egwene is, again, leading around women who haven't touched grass in thousands of years.
Right.
Okay, so it's they think it's clever. It's not clever, it's common sense. But when you're that isolated from the world, you think common sense is clever. That's the Aes Sedai's problem.
And we did it with Rand, right? The whole Kyrianan burning the letters, right? Just what is this crazy manipulation? Oh my God, he's brilliant. He's just doing what he says he's going to do. That level of you're so tied around your own axle that you can't see what's right in front of your face. And it feels clever when someone does what they say.
Right.
What other experience have I had where people find it odd when I do exactly what I say? And say exactly what I mean.
Autism?
I didn't bait you on that one at all.
I am a coach now. It is catnip to me.
I can always get you to say it.
It's my job. It's literally my job now.
So yeah, she has this little unjust punishments cannot be avoided, but it's best never to let others forget that it is unjust, right? That's a point that's come across with the demotion of the woman to Egwene's punishment to this idea that if you accept a punishment, it becomes legit, and if you don't accept it, it's not legit.
Yeah, it's a thing I've heard in other contexts of why are you asking permission from people who don't think that you're worthy? Why are you giving them the ability to determine your worth? Fuck them. They don't think you're worthy. Don't wait for their approval. It doesn't matter if they don't like you because they don't like you.
Right. And they never will.
Right, exactly. They're not going to give you what you want for bending over backwards for them. They don't think you're worthy. So don't don't give them that authority over your peace of mind or over your literal paycheck or whatever the case may be. Like, no.
Yeah, try not to. Try not to. Sometimes in society, you have to put on a mask and go out there and pretend.
Yeah, but you really want to be cognizant of when that's happening and find ways to do it as little as possible. But yeah, it's important to remind people of when they're being fucking dumbasses. You know? Even if it's just with a silent protest of not, being upset at her beatings, it's still like, I disagree with this. I'm not giving you the power to make me upset about it. That's how she's handling it. And she's telling Bene, like, do 1/10 of what I'm doing. You'll be fine. I also love in her room that she's got a model of the sun. Again, this is not a medieval society where there's no scientific literacy and people think the world is flat. This is a post-utopia where they knew about science. They knew about other worlds. Like, the knowledge level is a moth-eaten map, right? It was whole once. It was an actual map once. It is absolutely Swiss cheese now. But, like, there's little bits and pieces of what used to be. And she has a model of the sun. It's so cool.
That's a good catch. I didn't see that. What's the quote?
Oh, it's just when Egwene first enters the room. She just kind of is looking around, and Egwene had to duck her head beneath a model of the sun in order to reach the place where Bene stood.
Cool.
But it's like, what, a model of the sun? How do you model the sun if you're oh, right, this isn't medieval, right? This is post-technological peak.
And in places it's medieval, right? Like Two Rivers is pretty damn medieval.
Right, but like Nynaeve knows the word for infection. She doesn't call them demons, right? Like, little bits and pieces as necessary have sustained from a place of actually knowing things.
So then there's a couple of rapid fire visits where she basically does the same thing, right? Where she answers a question, given a hypothetical. She does it with a white sister, right? She already done it with Bene, and Bene was brown.
And then she does it with a yellow who likes herbs. She has the thought that, like, Nynaeve needs to stop being so judgy about all Aes Sedai hating herbs, because this yellow's room is literally, like, overflowing with plants. Even with all the plant rot and ridiculousness that the Dark One's bringing on the world, this room is bursting with the energy of a garden. So, like, not all yellows, Nynaeve.
And then she ends up in Medani's, which is gray.
Yeah.
So she's hitting, like, all the Ajahs, right? Because there's no blue, and she's not going to do much with the red. At this point.
She's doing what she's doing with the red on a different front, right? Her Sylviana connection is her red conversation.
Exactly.
But yeah, this is a chance for her to be Amerlin, right? To touch every Ajah with the same vibe. And to show us that all the Ajahs are trying to recruit her, right? This is also when we get the montage of the Ajahs really fighting over her in a very polite and they're all trying to put a stake on her, and it's like proof that she's going to be a good Amerlin because every Ajah would claim her if they could.
And what she's doing is she's going to them and saying, hey, you need to heal the tower because you're gray, and the grays negotiate between two sides. You're yellow, and you need to heal the divide. You're brown. You need to know that history doesn't, you can't repeat history because you know history. Like, she's going to all of these different Ajahs and saying, you need to heal the tower because of your Ajah, and putting it in that terms, which they then turn around and go, oh, that's really brilliant. You'd fit in really well here if you can think like that. Basically, if you can think of solving the problem in terms of our Ajah's viewpoint,
yeah, exactly,
then you would fit in well here. And she's doing that with everybody because she's trying to convince them to heal the divide, and that's kind of then that convinces people that she is of the sort of all Ajahs.
Exactly. She's demonstrating that she can think like any Ajah and every Ajah. So maybe she is of all Ajahs and none in the most literal sense.
Maybe. And so I think that's partially what's going towards convincing people, because they get together and like, oh, no, she was great with us. She would totally be one of us. And everyone's like, wow, all the Ajahs want her. That's interesting. Maybe she is. Yeah. So I think it's a great foreshadowing for her becoming Amerlin seat. I like what he's doing here. Yeah.
Oh, it definitely factors into the later conversations about, like, we have to choose her because we know everyone already likes her. This is definitely critical to her ultimate raising. But then when she gets to Medani, we're not doing that routine alone. We are also following up on the fact that Medani is one of the ferrets.
Yes. Yeah, which is a long plot line that's sort of coming to a rest here, or at least coming together here with this one. And that's where there's this argument between Medani and Egwene, where Medani's like, you're not the Emerald seat anymore. And Egwene's like, why not? And Maidani's like, well, you've been overthrown and captured.
No, that's not Maidani. That's Yukiri. That's later. Maidani's already on board by the time that they get to that meeting.
No, I'm talking about Maidani. The Amyrlin needs not the regard of those who follow her, so long as she is obeyed. You've been captured and overthrown. Egwene raised an eyebrow, meeting Maidani's gaze.
Oh.
Captured, true.
Yeah, she goes through that conversation twice. We enter Maidani's room, and it's a museum. And it's beautiful, and it's gorgeous, and there's tons of artifacts. And Maidani, a Grey, is given some backstory that we don't usually get with the Grey, because the Grey are seen as, like, the lawyers, so no one cares about them. But Maidani's given a very fun backstory when you get into her rooms about how she loves traveling, and people always give her cool stuff. And it's just nice to take a moment to develop a character before getting into, Egwene actually being clever. On the one hand, obviously, Egwene's being logical, but it's like she is actually dueling words with Aes Sedai in a way that I do think is clever here. And yeah, she does have to convince Maidani that she's Amyrlin properly in order to convince Maidani to take her two women that she can then reiterate those arguments to.
And Maidani ends up being loyal, right? And Maidani gets rid of Varen's body.
Yes.
And then that's the last time we see her.
Really?
Yeah. She and Varen disappear at the same time. She's not in the last battle or anything like that, as far as I can tell.
Well, that's upsetting. I disapprove of that. She should have gotten a little bit more closure than go get rid of the body with Varen.
But, it proves she was loyal to Egwene through the end, right? That's who she ended up being, is someone who was loyal to Egwene and, helped with her plans and everything like that. But yeah, no death, no life, no assumptions about where she ended up. Just part of the White Tower, who, assuming, is still around after the last battle. So yeah, Egwene basically goes all in saying like, hey, I need Maidani because I need the rebels, at least, right? Like if I'm going to undermine people...
The ferrets.
I need the ferrets to at least be loyal to me, right? I need them to admit I'm still their Amyrlin. They were sent in as part of my group, right? They are here as part of my group that is loyal to me. They need to stay loyal to me or I'm screwed. So she goes all in on Maidani and basically says, I am still your Amyrlin. I'm still in communication with the Hall. They have not elected a new leader. What are you going to do, right? Are you a traitor? And she's like, no. And it's like, okay, then I'm your Amyrlin seat. Deal with it.
And in so doing is also able to prove that Maidani's not Black Aja, right? It's like you're either lying, or cool. And ultimately Maidani's like, I'm cool, I'm sorry, I'm cool.
Now, are you cool? No, that's good. But in that process, there's obviously something she can't say.
I cannot say. She's like running up against like a computer firewall of like, I cannot say. I'm literally magically, those are the 3 words I can say on the subject, or that I cannot say.
My responses are limited. You must ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm. And then Egwene does a clever thing, genuinely clever, and says, all right, fuck it, let's change mediums. What if we just went there? What if you showed me? That's not the same
I
as
underline
talking.
that whole bit because it's good. It's
actually clever.
It's actually clever. If we're trying to get clever Egwene, it's like, oh, how do we get around an oath? And it's like that's something they didn't see. And we went back and saw them make her give that oath, and we didn't think about it until now. And yep, very clever. You can't tell me what's wrong. I suspect that the 3 oaths are involved. Well, 4 oaths. Though light knows how, we can work around the problem. You can't tell me why you've remained in the White Tower, but can you show me? Maidani cocked her head. I'm not sure I could take you to... I love that little cut off. There's the oaths. That's the definitive, like, yep, someone's been cut off by one of the oaths.
Right. It's like there's no way to fake that. I mean, obviously we just tried, but like you assume that when you're actually bound by the oaths that like there's a very specific like inability to move.
I wonder if the Black ever do that, have that. Because like, so here's a question, right? This is interesting. The Black are not allowed to betray their oaths, right?
Sure.
That's why I forget exactly what the wording of it, but essentially they can't reveal that they're Black.
Yeah, they can't reveal the existence of the order.
So I have to wonder if lying obviously would reveal that they're Black. Could they kind of duplicate the effect of the first oath against lying because the Black oath would cut them off because lying would reveal themselves? And could they get that like... Now, obviously, Black has to be able to lie sometimes. But if they did that, like, your dress is green thing, could Varen have said your dress is green?
If she hadn't already poisoned herself.
If she hadn't already poisoned herself. I don't think she could have. I think she would have said your dress is...
I completely agree. Yeah. She had, and you'll notice, I've listened to the chapter and paid attention. She takes a couple of good long sips of tea and like has a little bit of conversation with Egwene and just makes conversation and then drops the bombshell. And it's like, that was to guarantee that the poison was in her and thus allow her to start revealing the order.
Exactly.
Yeah, so one imagines that most Black Aja would not end up in that kind of a situation because they're nefarious, evil people and they would find other, easier, more expedient ways of resolving the situation. But in theory, yeah, I mean, Varen would have said, your dress is white.
Yeah.
It's white.
Yeah.
It's definitely white.
Right, because they have to be able to tell lies that hide them. The Black Oath wouldn't stop them from that, but I bet it would stop them from telling lies that would reveal them.
A lie against telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Fucked up. Or an oath against telling the truth.
They don't want to travel, through the hallways because the Red Aja will follow them, and that, Midani's like, that will be dangerous because, right, that's a discovery moment where that, who knows, then all of a sudden all these people know about the hunt for the Black, and that could be dangerous, right? That is totally legit thing to say. And so she does the thing where she shows her the traveling weaves, which is a little crazy to me.
With the part that she trusts Midani or the part where she's able to make the weaves despite being fork-rooted?
The latter. Thank you. The latter, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought that, but maybe it's you can do the form of it without putting enough power into it to, make it hit critical mass or something.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know. The mechanics of channeling seem like they get fuzzy when they need to for plot. Because I thought that sipping forkroot took away your ability to channel. That has been the experience up until now.
100%.
And now you're telling me that she can do a ghost of the traveling weave? I feel like we've had some backsliding. Or some front sliding, some side sliding. I don't know. We're sliding somewhere.
But we've never had anyone microdose on forkroot tea, right? Everyone's always been macrodosing. So maybe that's we're seeing a different effect because everyone's gone up and then come down, right? So the down is as sharp as the up, whereas now we're just existing flatline on a lower level.
Totally. And also, I feel like there's been mention of both tea and tincture of forkroot. I feel like usually it's tea, but at least once there's been a mention of tincture of forkroot, and I'm wondering if different preparations maybe have different levels of effect because, teas and tinctures are different for lots of medicines.
I don't see tincture in this book as a word.
Maybe it was the last one.
Am I spelling it right? Tincture?
I have no idea how to spell things.
Let me Google it.
And I have a terrible time trying to see letters in sequence.
Oh yeah,
when
saying it out loud isn't
out.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Pants. Yeah.
Tincture. Yeah, I spelled it right. So it's not in this book. The word tincture does not appear.
Okay. So probably more what you're talking about. It's a matter of dosage because the dose makes the experience. But I would have thought it would be cool if it was oh yeah, if you drink it as a tea, then it knocks you out totally. But if you do it as a tincture, that it is much more attenuated or something. I would have enjoyed that little bit of herb craft in my Wheel of Time.
But that means she'd be taking shots all the time of hard liquor.
No, just put a little squirt of tincture into some regular tea.
Oh, okay. But isn't tincture made out of? Well, I guess it depends on what your solution is.
Yeah, it's usually made with alcohol. But you can get a medicinal dose with significantly less than a shot of Everclear. Have you
Not the way I'm drinking it.
Have you never used tincture before?
No. I've done extractions, right, with when making alcohol.
No, sure.
But the point is not for the medicine. The point is for the booze to be flavored.
Yeah, well, when you get the little bottles, they're less than a shot's worth total volume. So you don't drink all of it at once. You take a dropper of it at a time, and then there's 20 to 50, however, I don't know how big things are. I've been putting a grape something extract in my mocktails at night because it just adds an extra pop of purple to my pomegranate juice and bubble water, and it's It's nice. It's pleasant.
That does sound nice. Yeah, we're drinking a lot of, we do bubble water and like a cranberry juice concentrate. And then because just that's good for other things.
Yeah. I'm doing pomegranate.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah. So that's a frequent drink around so that and a little bit of lime, works great.
Yeah. So various tinctures can be extremely pleasant additions to that mocktail bar. But yes, tinctures as medicines are generally taken a dropper or so at a time, not as shots.
So Maidani's reaction to the gateway, traveling is impossible. How the fuck do you think the rebels got there? Like what?
Yeah, it seemed a little bit
like I thought that, and the rumors with the Ashaman and like what hole have you been living in, Maidani, that you think traveling at this point in the army's moving around, the Ashaman, the Ray Rand has been bouncing around. You've gotten reports on that. Like, what?
Yeah, in the year of our dragon, 999. Like,
traveling's possible.
What are you doing?
You're not like confused about that anymore. That's not like a secret. You don't know what the weave is, but oh my God.
Yeah, the awe that she experiences should be, traveling? Like, that's what the reaction should have been, is you're showing me traveling?
Yeah, right.
Not traveling exists. Like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, Maidani.
Small criticism.
Minor. That's what we're here for. The tiniest little... No, it's not perfect.
I pick it apart because I love it.
Yeah, this is how we relax.
God. We're terrible people. We must be awful to be friends with. It must be so. People will just be like, oh my God, rolling our eyes at everything we talk about.
Well, except for the people who actually hang out with us.
Except for all of you people out there who love us, right? Like that's
the thing is, I don't have very many friends who don't think I'm cool, because why would I care about the approval of people who don't think I'm cool? I won't care. I don't care. If you don't think I'm cool, then you have ceased to exist to me. So, like, no loss. All I have are friends that are cool.
What would happen if I just faded away right there?
Just like Homer Simpsoning out, just like goodbye.
Just like, well, I ceased to exist if I didn't think you were cool, right?
But you think I'm cool.
Well, I'm still here, aren't I? Jesus.
Yeah, so
Clearly.
maybe my inner critic could
shut the fuck up for a second. And
observe any of the data of my lived experience at all. What a concept.
Oh man, we're back in therapy. Stop it.
All right. I gotta stop getting my coaching hat on. It's terrible.
Yeah, this is Tuesday, not Thursday. Tuesday, remember? Wheel of Time, not therapy. Right.
It's not therapy. I am legally not a therapist. Nobody looked at me with therapy. I legally have to say I'm not a therapist.
But I've said that podcasting is my therapy many times, so that's
that's super valid.
Rats in the White Tower.
Yes, rats in the White Tower. Yes, nasty evil rats. The true Amerlin has finally been alerted to the fact that there are rats in the tower. Mm-hmm.
Which they've been for a while. Dark One's touch has made the wards fail. We've heard about that for quite some time now.
But Alviarin's been, snickering to herself about how no one's noticed. And, a couple people have noticed, but there's nothing to do about it. Now Egwene has noticed. And for some reason, that makes it seem more resolved already. Just because Egwene is like, put that on the to-do.
But there's never anything to do about it, because that literally is the Dark One, corrupting the world and making the power not function the way it's supposed to. Which I think could have played a cooler role in the last battle with more unexpected effects. With the Dark One being like, oh, be careful in this region. Just like with the way the Bowl of the Winds had that sparky effect where it was used. I think it would have been cool to have more oh, over here you have to use really giant weaves, or over here, I don't know.
Yes, there's some sort of weird resonance. You can't use air waves.
Right, yeah, something like that.
The air gets weird if you use air, so only use water and fire or something like that. Yeah, that would have been cool. Or weaves turning inside out, so they have to do things backwards or mirror image. And they're trying to do that on the fly while Trollocs are attacking them, and they're like, how do I write backwards? This is impossible.
Those would be cool bubbles of evil.
Oh, that would be.
Right, bubbles of evil that affect channeling more so than the physical world a little bit, because
and then non-channelers don't see it happening, and they're not convinced that a bubble of evil is even occurring until the extant effects start catching up. Oh, that'd be weird. Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. All right, so Egwene is like, why did you take us to the bowels of the tower? We're going to waste precious time getting back up to ground level where the important things are. And Maidani's like, no.
We're going down.
We're going even farther down into the bowels of the tower.
At which point she's like, okay, what am I in for? I feel like that's the one time when I moved to Philly, I remember offering, I was a new kid and someone was like, I'm hungry, I need money. And I was like, well, come with me and I'll buy you some food, right? Like, and she's like, sure. Just come down this alleyway to the food cart area where you can buy me some food. And I remember walking 2 or 3 blocks and going, I think I made a mistake. And turning around and walking the other way. This is not the way that I want to. This is a dark alley. This is not a good idea. This is not. I'm being led somewhere I don't want to go.
Yeah, Egwene definitely is having that thought, but she's Amerlin, so she has to like extra keep it inside and just keep walking. Like she doesn't really have the choice to turn around and walk away. She's like, I guess I'm finding out. I am fucking around and finding out now, I guess. And, at this point, it like from where she's sitting, she's pretty sure Maidani's not a Darkfriend, but this feels like being taken to a Darkfriend meeting. Yeah. Right? It feels like that despite the confidence that she has in Maidani not being a Darkfriend.
It's the horseshoe theory, right? Like any group hunting dark friends are going to look a lot like dark friends because they're going to have to be secretive and, have a lot of meet in weird places and have codes and make sure that nobody else knows what they're doing, right? Like there's this similarity between dark friends and people hunting dark friends.
Right. They're very different people. There is a gap between them.
There is a gap, yes.
But
and Egwene has even felt this way, right? She and Elaine and Nynaeve and Moraine and Varen have this little coterie of supporting the Dragon Reborn and hunting the Dark Friends, right? They have, and they're kind of separate and have shared information separate from the rest of the White Tower. Out in the world, they're not in the tower, but it's a similar sort of group.
Right, they're keeping secrets on behalf of the side of being open and good, and they're keeping dark secrets. They're doing war crimes in the name of the common good? Question mark? Because I would argue that keeping Moghedien the way they did is like pretty dumb and bad, both at the same time.
And yet, the skills they learned did save the world multiple times.
Yeah, but they couldn't have known that at the time. Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
It is. Yeah. I'm actually surprised it worked for as long as it did, that she couldn't escape from some...
Right.
But that she'd never seen the collar before. Those were made after she was imprisoned. There's some warder stuff. Maidani's warder is out on an errand. No clue what that ends up being. No connection whatsoever. He's just, getting groceries or whatever. There's a warder at the door who opens the door and lets them in. That is not Maidani's warder. It is also not the warder of anybody in the room because no one in the room has a warder. So we're assuming it's a warder of one of the other conspirators. Again, no idea who.
And it never matters or comes up again.
We have Siain, Doacine, Yukiri, and Saren in the room.
Yeah, our Black Aja hunters.
Yeah, the Black Aja hunters. And I call them I was thinking of them as the dull squad, right? Because it's like 4 really dull, like relatively dull colors: white, yellow, gray, and brown. It's like they don't have any of the primary.
Yeah,
and
that
yellow,
is pretty muted.
Depending
on the shade of
palette.
Yellow.
Yeah, that's definitely like a desert palette,
Yeah.
We're not talking forest vibrant greens or anything like that. These are definitely
that's the color scheme of my brother's wedding. Out in the desert.
Mm-hmm. So they walk in, and these 4 basically start yelling at Maidani, being like, well, what the fuck? Why are you bringing Egwene into our secret meetings? That doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this? I thought the oath was supposed to prevent you from doing this. And Egwene's like, what oath?
The way that Egwene handles this situation is amazing because, again, she does not wait for permission to be acknowledged as Amerlin. She just owns the situation as Amerlin, cutting in, interrupting, speaking over people. Just like, I have primacy in this conversation. I'm not asking for it. I'm expecting it, and I'm taking it. And all the women in the room cannot stand in her way. Like, she's a boulder rolling downhill. They can't stop from taking her seriously because she already takes herself seriously. And she just owns them. It's great.
Yeah, Avienda, take a hint.
A tenth of a hint. Tenth of a hint. I thought you two were supposed to be similar. That's why you were friends. Like, come on. And Egwene also has She has like uncertainty, but not in herself as a young woman. She just has uncertainty in, am I balancing all of these women correctly? And am I handling this? Like, it's a very mature anxiety rather than a, oh no, are they going to allow me to keep my soul? Like, she's not doing that. She's doing a like, shit, I am so happy I have all these women in the same room at once, but also like, if I fuck this up, then there's nothing for it. Like, this is it. This is the test.
And yeah, and she calls him out for all the shit that we've been calling him out for, right? Like secret oaths, meetings in the basement, plotting against the Emerald seat, basically. Like, they're crimes.
Have we been railing on that for books? I thought we were cheering them on for hunting at the Black Aja.
I think we always were like the fourth oath is bullshit.
Oh, yeah, the fourth oath is bullshit, yeah. They could have just used the third oath to make her promise not to fuck up, because if she's got the first oath in place...
That's what I'm saying.
Like, an oath of fealty is all you fucking need. But, yeah, no, the fourth oath... Yes, the fourth oath has always been a problem. And Egwene leaps right to it. Like, she doesn't even bother asking them why they're meeting, even though she's really excited by the fact that they're meeting together, different women of different Ajas. But she's like, well, first and foremost, this fourth oath thing. Like, that has got to be resolved right away. Because, yeah, you're right. It sucks.
Yeah, and then Talk is making a point. You know, also the other people you've seen with the fourth oath, right? Like, Galena.
Yeah.
Elida proposes it. Not a good idea. Not a good idea, right? We're not going to break the 3 rules of robotics, right?
Yeah, the rule of 3.
3 oaths, right?
Yeah.
Rules of 3, right? If you're going to do a magic oath, there's always got to be 3 wishes. Like, don't break it. Don't
3
fuck
is
it
the
up.
number. You can't. No, 3 is the strongest shape. Don't fuck it up.
I also, it does seem that more oaths create more of an effect, and I wonder if 3 oaths shorten their lives by half, and 4 oaths would shorten it by like more than that.
I would assume sort of like logarithmic stacking. The more oaths you have, the faster you come down to normal mortal lifespan. And like at 10, you're like making sure to cap yourself off at 80 years. It's like, nope, can't go any farther than that.
There's a couple of pages here that I was kind of like, oh, this feels like summary, where he says, oh, if you take each sister, remove her oaths, and make her re-swear them, you could ask her. It's like, yes, that's what they've been doing. Like, that's the whole plot line here.
Yeah, it's repetitive. The line that I really think summarizes how she approaches all of them is, still me, execute me, or beat me, and the tower will yet be in shambles. That's the thrust of this whole conversation, is these women keep trying to say, well, you can't be Amerlin, you can't be in power, you're the cause of the problem. And she's like, I'm literally not, though. And you all know it. And you're wasting time. Like, just kill me then if I'm the problem. Fine.
And they're like, no, it wouldn't get rid of the rebels. It wouldn't get rid of Elida's terrible leadership. It wouldn't get rid of the split between the Ajas. It wouldn't get rid of the lack of novices.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just all these things, and they bow to that logic. And we just do a lot of exposition and recap in the act of having that conversation. But that sentence to me sums up the point. Though when she gets to the fourth oath discussion and she's able to like force them into immediately proving that they're being inhumane about it, I do kind of love that. She's like, yeah. Maidani won't betray me. She's like, well, we'll just order her to. It's like, literally 5 minutes ago, you said that you were doing this for honorable purposes. Like,
you're literally taking away her free will by doing that. Like, you're not just helping.
And it took one push. It took one push for you to immediately start abusing it and taking away her human rights. Like, not in theory, but in practice. Like, come on.
And then makes the point, like, you're that's compulsion. You've recreated compulsion, right? Yeah. Which is forbidden. It's like bad. Real bad.
Right. And then she even says, like, I get why you did it, and I may choose to forgive you in the long run if you stop it right the fuck now. Like, right the fuck now.
And Egwene knows using the power to force you to do something you don't want to do, even when it's not compulsion, right? She had the collar on.
Yeah, right.
And that used pain, but similar sort of thing where it's like, yeah, we're forcing you to do something. It's not technically compulsion, but it's something that you just can't break.
Yeah, I mean, if magic is being used to take away... If magic is being used to take away your ability to choose things, it really doesn't matter what you call it. We all know what that is.
Yeah, and here's the second place where she has that conversation she had earlier with Maidani, which is like, is my authority in my ability to channel? If I'm, no one can demote the Amerlin seat. That's a ridiculous point. She is the authority.
Yeah. And her strength, her objective strength doesn't matter because it is not a dick measuring contest.
No.
Like, it's just not.
Amaryllis heats tend to be strong, but they don't have to be. Their authority doesn't come from their strength in the one power.
Yeah, it comes from their strength of will, which often comes with strength in the power. But yeah, being artificially shackled in one does not automatically diminish the other.
And then I really love this argument, right? This following one where they're like, besides, you're not even the legitimate Amaryllis. Elida is. And she goes, really? Because she was elected with the bare minimum. And that means if a single person who elected her was Black Aja, the whole thing's invalid. And they're like, well, then you could question any election. And she's like, no, because she only had the minimum number of people there, right? Which is sort of a deep cut into like how the politics work, right? Like with a quorum and stuff like that. But like essentially you need a certain number, because you can't have everybody there all the time. You need a certain number minimum of people to be there to make the vote legit. And they were right at that line, not over it. And so in any other election, yeah, if one or two people are proven to be black, probably doesn't matter because there's more than enough people there. You know, one or two votes wouldn't change the outcome. However, in this one, the fact that a single person is black, and they have found someone who was black. It was Talene Minley. She was a black sitter. She voted. Now, we know there was a couple of other black sitters and a fucking Forsaken on there as well, right? Alviarin, Danelle, thank you. Yeah, Danelle, who ended up being Messana, right? So no way that vote was legit, because there's at least, we know, 3 votes that were, you know, either Forsaken or Black Aja, minimum. And it's hard to say Elida was exactly, shall we say, neutral in that vote.
Yeah, for sure.
But the point holds.
It is important to have the larger consensus, not the bare minimum consensus, for exactly this kind of reason.
And I think that is one of the best, really well-written political cleverness that Brandon puts in with Egwene. I think that now feels like it was definitely set up by Jordan really well. Like it was a well-executed spike, but the setup was really, really good. And this feels like the inevitable thing for him to do.
Yeah, for sure. This was definitely set up by Jordan, but it is executed wonderfully by Sanderson. And then, you know, we get into the purity politics where it's like, well, if you're saying that we did that, then are you calling us all Black Aja? Are you saying that we're all terrible people? And Queen's like, shut the fuck up. That's not the damn question. I think we're all serving the interests of the shadow so long as we allow ourselves to remain divided. How do you imagine the Black reacted to the near secret deposing of an Amerlin seat, followed by a division among the Aes Sedai? Like, heads, remove from asses. This is not about me calling you a Black Aja. This is about us acknowledging that we have some repair to do.
You got manipulated. You got scammed, right? It was not a Nigerian prince, okay? And we can admit it's not a Nigerian prince and stop sending him money. Right? Like you are never going to get that fortune back. Mm-hmm. It feels like talking to your boomer grandparents after they like buy into a scheme and they're like, but he promised he'd be sending me money. He's not going to. Mm-hmm. The check's not coming. Stop sending him money.
Yeah.
Like we all got scammed together. We're all in this together. Like it's all of our money and you're sending it out to an internet scam. Please stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the scammer's in the corner going, no, that's not what's happening at all. You know, like.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe believe the situation rather than what the person blowing smoke up your ass keeps saying. Maybe believe like the broader evidence. And it's just, it's so obvious. Why do you think the Black Aja wants more than you to be fighting amongst each other over your purity politics?
Yeah, you want that minority oligarchs to be fighting over politics so you don't pay attention to who's actually seizing power. And God, why is today awful? All right.
I charge you to continue your work with these women. They are not our enemies and they never were. Sending you back as a spy was a mistake. Like, the way Egwene is just like, yeah, no. We have all lost the fucking plot.
Because she wasn't part of that. That was again a black sister, right? Who sent in the spies. That was Shiriam, and it was Shiriam the Sixth, Shiriam 6, right?
Was it? Oh yeah, Shiriam was very much in charge of them at that point. Yeah. Totally.
So she's the one who sent in the spies, which of course, when discovered, would sow more, disillusionment and fear and distrust between the two sides. Of course, the Black Aja sent spies into the other side.
Yeah, of course, because anything that we imagine they would do, they clearly are doing, right? And we're not telling on ourselves when we spin these paranoid fantasies and work ourselves up into a frenzy. We're not telling on ourselves. No. We're just clearly divining what the enemy would do to us, because that's what... Yep.
They don't have the oath rod. I think that's important. It's difficult to sneak away, even though they do end up sneaking it away when Varen comes for it.
Yeah, I'm confused by that statement since they apparently raise like one Aes Sedai a year at this point. I'm not sure like what the busy social schedule of the Oath Rod could possibly be.
I mean, maybe just because it's like, why would you need it? And so they have to justify checking it out for some reason. They have to be, and like, so like.
So how are they justify checking it out? When again, the only reason they use it is to raise new sisters, and everyone knows when a new sister comes around because there's one a year.
Maybe somebody wants to study. Oh, I'm studying Terangrial. Let me check out the Oath Rod.
Everyone makes such a big deal out about how no one's been doing that since Corian and Deal until Elaine Tricand, and the whole checking out the Oath Rod subplot detail has always bothered me and felt very incomplete.
Honestly, the whole Terangrial storage, checking out who has access to them, how they're secured, ever since the apprentice came to the alarm that sounded when Padden Fane was in there, and then Alviarin showed up, and it seems like the Black Aja had access to the storerooms, but yet they didn't. The Forsaken can't seem to find any of the Sangreal, even though they're sitting right there on the shelf. And Egwene there's a sort of this big long plot hole about the Angreal storage in the White Tower.
Yeah, multiple plot holes that are all just leading into the gaping chaotic maw of Terangreal storage.
And like it's kind of solved. The plot hole of Egwene being able to get down there is she asks Suan to tell her where they're stored, which is information that only a few people have, and so that's how she's able to make a gateway down there, right? Like that's the solution that he comes up with. But like hiding Terangrial through obscurity in the tower when you have a Forsaken just living there who could ask or compel any of the Aes Sedai to just show her where the Terangrial, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense how the Forsaken don't have a shit ton of Angreal that they're using against Rand all the time.
Yeah. And it makes no sense to me that the Oath Rod can go missing sometimes, but not all the time. It doesn't fit with the use case scenario of what the Oath Rod does. So that's annoying. And yeah, Egwene sort of does her little mic drop and then takes Maidani and heads out because she has decided that the audience is over. Again, not asking permission, simply taking it.
Well, because all these people are working outside the power structure of the White Tower and Elaida, right? At this point, even though they technically were told to start by her, I think at this point have they realized that it's no longer. Yeah,
I believe so.
I think at this point they know that they're doing this outside of the authority structure of the White Tower. And Egwene realizes they're working outside of the authority structure. So she's like, I don't have to in any way acknowledge the power structure of the White Tower at this point because you're operating outside of it and so am I. But I'm the Amerlin. Well,
it's more than that. She is operating within the power structure of the true White Tower, which is that she is on top and they are her subordinates.
Right.
She's like, you're not working for Elaida, so you're working for me. Like, this is a binary state of affairs. You are either with Elaida or you are with Egwene. Like, that's how you are as Aes Sedai.
And you've already done something that could be considered rebellious or traitorous by having these meetings, by swearing the fourth oath. You are outside that power structure. You are you are basically rebelling as much as I am.
Right, exactly. So, like, clearly you would rather work towards my ends because you're working against Elaida and so am I, and that's all we need to know right now. And yeah, she takes Maidani and they just flounce the fuck out and it's great. I love it.
Do you want, and I think, that's the readout.
Yeah, I'll just read us on out. I can't believe you succeeded, the Grey said. They should have strung you up by your heels and had you howling. They are too wise for that, Egwene said. They're the only ones in this blasted tower, besides maybe Sylviana, who have anything resembling heads sitting atop their shoulders. Sylviana? Maidani asked with surprise. Doesn't she beat you every day? Several times a day, Egwene said absently. She's very dutiful, not to mention thoughtful. If we had more like her, the tower wouldn't have gotten to this state in the first place. Maidani regarded Egwene, an odd expression on her face. You really are the Amerlin, she finally said. It was an odd comment. Hadn't she just sworn that she accepted Egwene's authority? Come on, Egwene said, hastening her pace. I need to get back before those reds grow suspicious.
The logic mind versus the actual emotional mind.
Mm-hmm.
Discovering accepting illogically that you're the Amerlin is different than emotionally realizing that you are truly someone who's a leader.
And Swan literally had this conversation with her a while back where she said, you really are Amerlin. And Egwene says, I thought you believed in me months ago. And Swan says, no, I believed in your potential. I am saying that you are achieving your potential so much faster than I expected.
Right.
And that's what this is again, is it's like Egwene has moved on. She can't imagine someone thinking of her as not having power. But Maidani is going through the process of realizing that she thinks of Egwene as someone with power, and she's kind of surprised by that. It's not just she's politically aligned because she hates Elida. It's like, no, she respects your power intrinsically, subconsciously. She is finding herself happy to be subordinate to you, and she's surprised. Egwene's not surprised, but she's been living in that space for months, whereas Maidani is, coming around to it today. And that was a fun, meaty chapter. We definitely had some horrible tangents that are going to be excised that will cut the runtime down significantly, but I think it was a good recording overall.
All right, well, that was a fun recording. That was one of the best chapters I think we've had so far in this book, and I'm excited to have more crunchy chapters like that. I feel like he does get into it a little bit. We were saying the first few chapters were a little soft and a little recappy and a little simplistic, and I think we finally got into... He got his feet underneath him, and now he's running.
Yeah. Excited to be here. Excited to be at this point in the book. And, we will see you all when we see you next. Bye.
Bye.
Tell the people all the fun things.
All the fun things, right? So, you ever have one of those weeks that you look back and go, oh, it's been 3 months. No, 6 days. Fuck. It's... So, y'all know I just went on my honeymoon, which was amazing. Loved it. Definitely caught some sort of flu, possibly COVID, yet to be seen 2-week-long virus on that trip. So I have been, probably not feeling well during the last recording, but pretty much sick in bed since then. Well, not in bed, because some other stuff happened. Sick and should have been in bed, right? That level of flu that you're just like, you can't breathe, you're coughing, you really shouldn't be around anybody else. So I work one day because I don't want to admit that I'm sick yet, right? So I work that one day, get up the next morning, start to go to work and go, oh, nope, I'm not going to make that. I'm going back to bed. That night, our cat doesn't eat his food, which eventually evolves into him being quite sick, taking him to the hospital and having him at the hospital all weekend. So we're coming and going to and from the vet hospital. He appears to be getting better, so good news, right? As of this moment, he's been given antibiotics and he's been given 24-hour care, and he is healthy, but, and appears to be better and alert. The vet has not ruled out anything chronic going on to cause this infection. They never found the source of it, but we're going to go with random infection. So, keep you updated on that as time goes on. So that wasn't fun. But that night, Travis, my good friend Travis.
Such a good friend.
Such a good friend. He acquired a dog. His neighbor, who I'm hearing this story secondhand, right? So essentially was given this dog by her drug dealer, and is someone who was on drugs and was somewhat, was probably doing okay for a while, but has since relapsed a little bit. And so in basically a confrontation with the neighbors, threw the dog out of her house and said, somebody please take this dog, right? And so Travis saw that and took the dog. Now, he has 2 other dogs in his location, and so called me up at, after I'd gone to bed at 9:30 at night and said, hey, I need a favor. I have a puppy.
9:30 at night. You're so old.
9:30 at night.
I'd be in bed at that point too.
Our cat's sick. We're sick. We are in the middle of moving. I have movers coming in 6 days. Everything is in boxes. So I said, okay, drop the puppy off.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Of course I did. Of course I did. Right? Like, I'm not going to, because he's got 2 dogs. He's got, leases. He can't take care of the dog, right? Dog stays with us. Very sweet. We find out, basically a little bit of his backstory. We get his chip scanned. So we're like trying to find his original owners, right? Maybe there's somebody who, because it doesn't appear that the woman who had him was his original owner, right? So talked to the Humane Society. Turns out he was adopted from the Oregon Humane Society. So we know his age, right? So he is 8 months old. He has been spayed and neutered. His vaccinations are not up to date, so we definitely need to do that. But yeah, we called up the original owners. They said they lost him within a day or within a week of getting him and haven't had him since. So he has been probably in the possession of somebody who either stole him out of the yard or didn't bother trying to return him to the original owner. And they said we could keep him.
Because they hadn't really bonded with him. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I acquired a dog. Was literally dropped into my lap this week.
The dog distribution system heard your need.
The dog distribution system.
But it fucked up the timing.
The timing was awful. The timing was so bad. Oh my God. I couldn't tell you how freaking bad the timing was. And I am...
This is like a divine typo. Like the angel organizing this, like their finger slipped and hit the wrong character.
Uh-huh. So I am dropping the pictures in... Now, again, because of... No, I completely blanked on what I was going to say.
No idea where you're going with that.
I got distracted by puppy pictures. He's cute. No, he's cute. So he's about, just stats, he's 45 pounds at 8 months old. That gives a predictive weight of somewhere around 60 to 70 pounds, right? So he's going to be a big boy, but not a giant boy, despite the fact that his paws are huge. He appears to be some sort of pit mastiff mix would be my guess, but that's just based on his coloring and his size, right? So he has a fairly fawn body and a very white neck, but the white and the fawn never touch. There's always a black line between the white and the fawn. And then his face is a very typical pit face coloring, which a white stripe down the forehead and then around the nose. The one thing is going on is then his whole face is a black mask and his body is fawn, right? So he's got the white stripe surrounded by the black mask that then ends at the top of his head. So it looks like he's wearing a mask.
It really does.
Like it really does look like, it looks like he's got a mask on. And then from there on back, he's fawn. So it looks like a mastiff in a pit bull mask.
He's so cute.
So he's very cute. Let me get some more pictures for live chat. Because...
Yeah, live chat is clamoring for the puppy tax. Oh, and mastiffs are like, they're so big. Their limbs are so long. They're just such like massive dogs.
Yeah, he's a long-legged boy
and they're so
for sure.
cuddly. They're
Right.
just like the one I knew for a while was just like he would come over and like sit next to you, and pretty soon he'd be sitting on your foot, and pretty soon he'd be like leaning over onto your leg, and pretty soon he's in your lap, and he's like an 80-pound mastiff, and it was ridiculous. But oh yeah, look at those pictures. Oh my God. Yeah, the way his head is just so dark compared to the rest of him, but then that bright white stripe. But yeah, he does have big paws. Can attest to that.
Yeah, giant paws. Yeah, it's probably a bit of terror. I mean, he's clearly a mutt, right? So I'm not going to just, I'm just sort of saying what he looks like.
He's going to take after the mastiff part of his heritage, it seems, He's got that, and he is expressing it.
So yeah, a couple. I mean, he is certainly, he likes to nip for attention, which I am not a fan of. So that is something we need to train him out of. So far, he's very good on leash. He's very good with the basic commands, the sits, the downs, the weights. The crate training is going really well. So we're working on a lot of things, and like I said, I've had him for 72 hours at this point. So while I'm moving, so it's been while we've been sick, while
you're
our cat's
returning
been
from
in the
your
hospital. So yeah. His house training definitely needs some work, but I found just switching him off his original. Sorry, guys, I'm going into this way too deep. Or maybe you can cut this down to something reasonable. I'm obviously very happy and enthusiastic.
The dog people are not going to want me to cut a single drop of this. It'll be at the end of the episodes. If you're a dog person, you're welcome.
Yeah, so there's definitely some training. Like I said, he's got the behavior more of a 4-year-old puppy. He clearly was not trained well for the last few months. He likes to nip to get my attention, and that's something that I am worried about because I have a few bruises from where he's just, he's clearly been trained to grab ankles and wrists to get attention, and so we're redirecting him towards toys, and that appears to be working, but it's a process. It's a process. And then also the separation anxiety is pretty bad, right? He is just already bonded to me in a way where he cannot be in a room separate from me. And I think Never's a little bit jealous already. She's like, wait a minute, how did you bond? It's like, we've both been home. And she's honestly been so much sicker than I have. I've been doing a lot of the puppy work for the first few days, just because she's been just totally bedbound. And she's really been more on the cat side of stuff. So her energy's been going towards the cat, and mine's been more. So he clearly, we'll work on that. But, oh man, I mean, he's adorable, he's cute, he's cuddly, he's very, very sweet. He loves to nibble on my earlobe, which again, I'm also trying to nip in the butt. And he looks up with the cutest face, and he won our hearts really, really quickly. I think I have a video of him sleeping on my shoulder.
I love that the live channel now has everyone contributing their dog pictures. I am super pleased with this. This is fantastic.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, I want a dog.
Oh, here's the best picture. This is the first day.
Oh, the sunlit dog.
The sunlit dog. That's the best photo I think I've taken of him so far. It's not I'm not the best photographer. So it takes a lot of photos to get a good one or two. Oh yeah, here's another one that I took right on the first day.
Ned talk. Well, his parents do, so it's genetic. Human parents. I mean, because that's how genetics work.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure once you adopt them, they take on your genetics. That's how that works.
Every good human-dog combo I've seen, there has clearly become a horizontal transfer of genes happening between the two species. Oh, he's so cute. God. Yeah, the way that the stripe goes around his nose.
Oh, that last picture gives you a really good idea of what his face looks like.
And yeah, he does definitely have some of that soulful pity look in his face. Like the way that all dogs have that soulful look, but there's something about the way that pit bull faces just really just go for it. It's so cute.
And you can see in the background of all those photos, boxes
it does look like a chaotic environment.
On the ground. It's not great. It's not great. God, I love the dog photos.
It's fantastic.
So cute.
Is that a cat in that picture? We've got a dog and a cat. Oh, they've made truce over the heat lamp. That's what that is.
Oh, yeah. Neither one seems that happy about it, but they're like, fine, you can sit here if you want.
When it gets a certain amount of cold, the rules of the feud change.
It's like predators and prey at water.
In a drought,
right?
The rules are very
in the
different.
desert. In a drought.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same with too hot too. There was a heat wave one year that I remember where my mom had a dog and a cat that those two in particular really did not like each other. The dog didn't like any of the cats, but that one cat in particular, and they were totally fine laying right next to each other on the cement pad that was in the shade. This one summer was just too fucking hot. It was just no, we're way too hot to fight. We're both just going to enjoy the thermal mass of concrete now. And it's you two have never been that close together without fighting, ever. But thermal extremes, they will make strange bedfellows.
It's true in cities, too. I tell you that. cities change when they go to either too hot or too cold over their extreme, like what they can handle, right? Like whatever that extreme is in your local city, right? I don't want to give a number because everybody's different, right? Like
but when it pushes the bounds of your infrastructure.
Right. Because like England was going down because it got below freezing, just like we do, right? And it's because we're on the west coasts of sea, and then there's a sea that keeps our environment very warm and very stable because we're getting all of that wind coming off the sea.
Well, our Pacific Ocean is really interesting, actually, because the ocean water is so cold because of how much wind we have. It creates a cold upwelling. But a lot of the wind that does come is coming from the lower latitudes, which is the same thing as the Gulf Stream, right? You get that tropical heat energy, and then you just fire hose it north. It helps. But England is much farther north than us, and it's because they have a much more consistent atmospheric river in the Gulf Stream than we do.
So you're saying the wind has created a unexpected encounter?
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.